Picture yourself atop a castle's ramparts, in the heart of a winter so fierce it seems to gnaw at your very bones. The stone beneath your boots is glazed with ice, shimmering faintly under a moon that casts more shadow than light. Each breath you draw stings, forming fleeting wisps of vapor that dissolve into the night. Your boots, rigid from the frost, creak as you shift your weight, trying to coax warmth into your numbed toes. The castle looms as a bulwark against invaders, but tonight, its true enemy is the relentless cold. Might hope these walls will shield you, but survival here demands ingenuity, not just stone. Before we dive deeper, if you're enjoying this tale, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more. Drop a comment below with your location and the time where you are. I am always curious to see where these stories reach. Now, lower the lights and settle in. You rest a hand on the battlement, and the icy stone seems to drink the warmth from your palm. Medieval soldiers learned this lesson harshly. Stone is a merciless conductor of cold. Unlike timber, which holds a touch of warmth, castle walls siphon heat with brutal efficiency. Designed as fortresses, not homes, these structures prioritize defense over comfort. Their thick limestone or granite walls repelled arrows and siege engines, complete with moats, drawbridges, and arrow slits. Yet, they also harbored dampness and drafts, turning garrisons into frigid prisons during winter. A 14th century scribe once noted that castle stones seemed to harbor a chill deeper than any enemy's malice. It's a vivid image, and when you're shivering in the dead of night, it rings painfully true. You begin pacing the wall's narrow walkway, your footsteps a steady rhythm against the frozen stone. Every guard before you has done the same, their boots marking time in a dance of survival. Standing still invites the cold to seize your limbs, so movement becomes your ally. The watchfires below flicker weakly, their warmth a distant tease. Medieval suggests medieval soldiers developed odd but practical habits to endure such nights. One peculiar practice involved chewing small stones not for nourishment, but to stimulate saliva, tricking the body into feeling less parched in the dry, freezing air. It's a strange ritual, born of desperation. But when the wind cuts like a blade, any small comfort feels like a victory. Your cloak, heavy with layers of wool over linen, clings tightly as you pull it closer. Yet the cold slithers through every gap, chilling your skin. Below, in the courtyard, your comrades huddle under shared blankets, your breath rising in a misty haze, like spirits escaping into the night. They're not warm, just less exposed than you. Historians debate whether medieval castles were as grueling in winter as chronicles claim, or if romanticized tales exaggerated the hardship. Medieval people, after all, were no strangers to harsh conditions, no radiators, no insulated windows. Still, accounts of ink freezing in wells and breath clouding indoors paint a picture of relentless discomfort. The castle's soundscape is sparse. The crunch of your steps, a distant owl's call, the creak of wooden beams settling in the keep. Beyond the walls, the forest stirs faintly, perhaps with the soft tread of a fox or the hungry prowl of a wolf. You grip your spear tighter, though you know the cold is the fiercer foe. The air carries the damp scent of stone, mixed with the faint char of torch smoke and the tang of pine resin. The torches flare and falter in the wind, casting jittery shadows that make the night feel alive with unseen watchers. Superstition was rife among medieval soldiers, many believing winter's chill carried restless spirits from the forest or nearby graves. You shake off the thought, but the prickle on your neck lingers. Your fingers, stiff around your spear's shaft, ache as you blow warm breath into your palms. The relief is fleeting, but every small act of defiance against the cold counts. Deserting your post isn't an option. Medieval punishments like flogging or worse ensured loyalty. Even when frostbite threatened, you pause at the parapet, gazing over the snow-draped fields. The village below lies quiet, its thatched roofs heavy with frost. Thin threads of smoke curling from chimneys where families cling to their hearths. In this moment, you feel a quiet bond with them, soldier and peasant alike, united against winter's cruelty. Medieval society was interconnected in its fight for survival. Villagers wove the wool that kept garrisons alive, while soldiers guarded the lands that fed them. As you resume your patrol, each step a soft echo in the stillness. You know the night is far from over. Surviving it demands more than grit. It requires cunning layers and a touch of luck. At last, you descend the spiral staircase, its icy steps ringing under your boots like a hollow drum. The guardroom below offers little reprieve, its air only marginally less biting. Here, survival hinges on one word: layers. You peel off your frost-stiffened gloves and survey your comrades, bundled in heaps of cloth that obscure their humanity. Linen undershirts, woolen tunics, cloaks, and even spare hose wrapped around limbs. A barrier against the cold. Medieval clothing was a science of survival. Linen, worn closest to the skin, was valued for its washability, though washing often meant scrubbing in frigid rivers. Wool, the backbone of medieval wardrobes, was prized for its ability to insulate even when wet. In England, wool was so vital that 13th century laws regulated its trade, ensuring armies and citizens alike could endure winter's wrath. Yet even wool had its limits. You settle onto a straw pallet, the chill seeping through every seam. Some soldiers, desperate for warmth, stuffed their garments with straw or scraps of vellum, creating makeshift insulation. It was a rustic solution, but chronicles suggest it was surprisingly effective. Your cloak's coarse weave scratches your skin, carrying the faint musk of sheep and the damp odor of a fire that never quite dries the air. Around you, soldiers mutter and adjust their layers. One wraps cloth strips around his legs. Another ties a rag to secure his hood. These small acts, born of necessity, draw the line between endurance and defeat. The guardroom feels less like a barracks and more like a hive, each man cocooned in his own layers. The draft slips under the door, through shuttered windows, and past every defense. You lie back, tracing the wool's rough texture, recalling tales that every extra layer buys another hour of survival. Exaggeration, perhaps, but in a world where textile shortages left many underclothed, such beliefs held power. The room sounds the crackle of embers. The low hum of snores blend with the faint itch of wool and the musty scent of damp cloth. You wonder about the villagers who spun this wool, their looms humming to clothe men they'd never meet. This shared reliance binds you, from the weaver's cottage to the castle's walls. As you drift toward sleep, the cold waits patiently, ready to creep back at dawn. Yet for now, you trust in your layers, linen, wool, and stubborn hope. They are your shield against the castle's unyielding stone. Your proof that even in winter's grasp, survival is a craft honed by necessity and will. You curl onto your side, drawing your cloak closer to ward off the chill that seeps through every seam. But tonight, one thing offers a glimmer of hope: the promise of sheepskin. Wool is reliable, but sheepskin, those thick, fleece-heavy pelts that seem to carry the warmth of the animal itself, is a soldier as true salvation in winter. You watch a comrade slip into his, the shaggy fleece brushing his jaw like a warm embrace. It's not elegant, but the effect is undeniable. His posture softens. His breath still clouds the air, but his shivers fade. Sheepskin was a cornerstone of medieval Europe's survival, a byproduct of the wool trade that clothed armies and peasants alike. While wool was spun into tunics and hose, the tanned pelts, with their dense fleece intact, became cloaks or linings that trapped heat like nothing else. Documents from the 9th century Carolingian era mention lords distributing sheepskin cloaks to their troops, a testament to their critical role in keeping soldiers alive through brutal winters. Your own cloak, worn thin and purely woolen, feels inadequate by comparison. Imagine how a sheepskin's weight might change the night, its warmth a shield against the frost. A curious detail emerges from history. In some regions, cloaks of wool for bear pelt were badges of status, coveted by nobles for their rarity. Sheepskin, though, was the commoner's champion, abundant and effective. Its practicality was its strength, offering warmth without fanfare. Scholars debate whether sheepskin cloaks were widespread enough to reach every soldier, or if they were a privilege for officers and wealthier garrisons. Evidence suggests it varied. Well-supplied castles along trade routes might have had ample stocks, while remote outposts relied on patched rags. Your fate depended on where you stood, guard and a bit of luck. The sensory world of sheepskin is vivid. Its fleece carries a rich lanolin-heavy scent, tinged with the earthy musk of the animal. Against your skin, it's slightly greasy, yet the warmth it holds is worth any discomfort. You envision wrapping yourself in one, the heat building as if the sheep's spirit lingers, guarding you from the cold. Some soldiers, isolated by long watches, grew so fond of their cloaks, they gave them names, whispering to them as if to a loyal friend. It's an odd quirk, but in a world where cold and loneliness were twin foes, a sheepskin could feel like a companion. You crack a dry-lipped smile at the thought, the hearth's faint crackle punctuating the silence. A comrade burrows under his cloak, the fleece rustling softly as he vanishes beneath it. You envy his cocoon, imagining how the wind on the battlements might lose its bite under such a shield. Historians ponder whether soldiers wore sheepskin over armor during winter patrols. Some accounts suggest they did, layering fleece for warmth on quiet nights, though the bulk would have hindered movement in combat. Others argue armor's weight was burden enough, and cloaks were shed when danger loomed. It likely depended on the moment: warmth for a calm watch, agility for a fight. You gaze at the rafters, the castle's drafts whispering through unseen gaps. Your thoughts drift to the sheep grazing in distant pastures, their pelts now saving men they'd never know. It's a humble connection, but it grounds you. Survival isn't glorious. It's the quiet work of tanners, shepherds, and soldiers, all bound by the gift of fleece. As dawn's faint light creeps through the wall's slits, you rise, brushing straw from your tunic, ready to face another freezing day. Sheepskin or not, your stubbornness matches the cold's relentlessness. Night falls again, gray and unforgiving, and exhaustion pulls you toward the guardroom's stone floor, as cold as a slab of ice. Every joint aches, as if the chill has seeped into your marrow. But one simple invention saves you: the straw mattress. You collapse onto your Polita core sack, stuffed with hay and reeds that crinkles like dry leaves under your weight. It's rudimentary, but it lifts you just above the frozen stone, a small mercy that feels like a miracle. Straw bedding, or palliases, was ubiquitous in medieval Europe, used by soldiers, peasants, and even monks. Castles relied on these sacks, often refilled from nearby stables or fields. On campaigns, soldiers carried empty tickings to stuff with whatever straw they could scavenge, ensuring a barrier against the ground's chill. Without them, cold-related illnesses like rheumatism or pneumonia could ravage a garrison, sapping morale and strength. You shift, scratching at an itch on your arm. Straw's downside is its hospitality to pests. Within days, fleas and lice turn your palate into a breeding ground, their bites as relentless as the cold. A peculiar historical note: medieval guides recommended refreshing straw seasonally or burning it to curb infestations. But soldiers often lacked the means or time. Some sprinkled herbs like rosemary or mugwort into their bedding, hoping the sharp scents would repel vermin. Such remedies were rare in sparse garrisons, leaving men to endure the itching. The straw's scent is earthy, almost pastoral, but it's undercut by the damp mustiness of the castle. Closing your eyes, you might briefly dream of summer fields, but a draft across your face snaps you back to the frigid chamber. Scholars remain split on straw's efficacy. Some argue it was a vital shield, insulating soldiers from cold floors and reducing illness. Others point out that vermin-laden bedding might have spread infections, trading one risk for another. The truth likely varied by castle and season. Your senses hum with contrasts: the faint warmth of straw beneath you, the cold air grazing your skin, the prickle of a flea's bite. Each movement stirs a soft rustle, a sound that lulls you despite the discomfort. Across the room, a comrade mutters in his sleep, his palate crunching as he shifts. Another coughs, then groans, the chamber alive with the sounds of survival snores, shuffles, and the faint creak of straw. The palate, humble as it is, offers more than warmth. It's a psychological lifeline, a reminder of humanity in a world of stone. Without it, the floor would strip away dignity as well as heat. You burrow deeper, ignoring the itch, and let the straw's rustle carry you toward an easy sleep, a fragile defense against the cold's grip. You're not alone on your pallet. The guardroom is a tangle of bodies pressed close under cloaks and rags like fish packed in a crate. At first, the closeness feels intrusive. An elbow jabs your side, a knee nudges your ribs. But soon you understand. This is no accident but a deliberate strategy. Shared body heat is a weapon against the cold, a silent pact among soldiers. You edge closer to the man beside you, and he doesn't pull away, his own need mirroring yours. It's more join, forming a huddle of limbs and uneven breaths, a makeshift furnace without flame. The air grows thick with the scent of sweat, wool, and faintly sour skin. But no one protests. Survival outweighs pride. Medieval chronicles rarely mention this practice explicitly, but archaeological evidence of cramped sleeping quarters suggests it was common. Soldiers in garrisons, especially in winter, relied on each other's warmth to endure. The psychological boost was as vital as the physical huddling fostered camaraderie, a reminder that no one faced the cold alone. You feel the faint pulse of another's breath, the rustle of a cloak as someone shifts. The chamber hums with life, a snore, a muffled curse, the creak of straw. Together you form a fragile bulwark, each man's warmth a gift to the others. As the night deepens, you let yourself relax into this strange intimacy, grateful for the unspoken bond that keeps the cold at bay, if only for a few hours. You lie on your straw pallet, nestled among comrades, your cloak pulled tight against the chill that never relents. The press of bodies around your shoulders brushing, knees, nudgings, both awkward and vital. Medieval soldiers often slept in tight clusters, not just for lack of space, but as a defense against the cold. Garrison records reveal barracks designed for function, not privacy. Open chambers where pallets lined the floor like tiles, each man's warmth bleeding into the next. Chroniclers liken soldiers to huddled wolf pups, their closeness a matter of survival, not sentiment. The science was intuitive. Bodies radiate heat, and together they form a barrier against the castle's icy grip. A curious detail emerges. Some garrisons rotated sleeping positions to ensure no one was left against the drafty walls night after night. Others shared grim jests about wetting their bunkmates' warmth, dark humor that lightened the misery. You grin faintly, the idea warming your spirit as much as the bodies warm your skin. Historians debate whether this huddling was a universal practice or romanticized in later tales of camaraderie. Evidence from cramped castle layouts and soldiers' accounts suggests it was widespread, though less about brotherhood than raw necessity. The stench of unwashed men, the itch of lice in your cloak, and the rustle of straw beneath you are far from noble, but they anchor you to life. Your senses hummed with the reality of it, the faint heat of a comrade's shoulder against yours. The sour temps of sweat-soaked wool, the low grind of teeth, or a muffled snore in the dark. The cold isolates, shrinking you against the vast stone walls. But here, pressed among others, you feel tethered. Your breaths sink, chests rising and falling in a rhythm that blurs the lines between strangers. It's not just physical warmth, it's a quiet reassurance, a reminder you're not alone. Medieval soldiers likely felt this too, their huddles a psychological shield as much as a physical one. A soft chuckle ripples through the room as someone mutters about fleas forming their own army, the laughter fading into snores. Survival in a castle's winter demands more than wool or straw demands each other. You sink deeper into the tangle of bodies, trusting this shared warmth will carry you to dawn. Morning comes stiff and gray, and you rise, bones creaking from the night's cramped cocoon. Dragging your cloak around you, you shuffle down the spiral stairs, each step echoing in the cold stairwell. A faint warmth greets you as you near the great hall, where a massive stone fireplace roars, its flames devouring logs with a crackle that defies the winter outside. Soldiers cluster around braziers' iron baskets glowing with coals, hands outstretched like pilgrims at a shrine. You join them, crouching near a brazier, the heat washing over your fingers like a tide of life. Medieval castles relied on such fires not just for cooking but for warming garrisons. Yet their vast halls with soaring ceilings and drafty walls were notorious for swallowing heat. A few steps from the fire, and the cold pounced again, relentless. Portable braziers were a lifeline carried from room to room, filled with charcoal or embers to create pockets of warmth. You lean closer, the heat stinging your cheeks, smoke curling into your nostrils with a woody, acrid bite. Your eyes water, but the sensation is a gift. A peculiar practice surfaces in historical accounts. Soldiers sometimes tucked heated stones from hearths into their bedding, wrapped in cloth to serve as makeshift heaters. The trick worked until a careless rap sparked a smoldering pallet. Tales of mattress fires became grim campfire stories, told with wry grins. Freeze or fry, lad, take your pick. Historians question how effective these great hall fires were for the rank and file. Some argue they were communal havens, others that their warmth favored lords in cozier chambers, leaving soldiers to fight for scraps of heat. The truth likely hinged on status and supply officers, warmed by tapestried walls, commoners by fleeting braziers. The hall buzzes softly with murmurs, soldiers' voices softened by relief. One man stretches his boots toward the fire, steam rising from damp leather. Another prods the coals, coaxing a higher flame with a smirk, as if he's mastered the elements. The fellowship here is fragile but real, forged in shared warmth. Your skin prickles, caught between the fire's heat and the icy wall at your back, a body, torn between seasons. Above, in the Lord's chambers, tapestries and furs hoard heat, a reminder of rank's privileges. Yet here, among the braziers, you build your own resilience. The fire's scent clings to your cloak, mingling with the faint aroma of broth simmering in a pot nearby. You lick your cracked lips, craving its warmth. Fuel, though, is a fleeting treasure. Medieval records tell of sieges where garrisons burned furniture, or even defensive hoardings when wood ran low. For now, the fire burns and you linger, its crackle a lullaby against the cold. As men drift back to their pallets, you stay, watching the logs glow like a fortress under siege by flames, a fleeting victory in winter's war. Night falls again, heavy and biting, as you return to the wall for watch duty. The wind claws at your face, numbing your nose until it feels like a stranger's. The brazier's warmth is a distant memory, but a small ally flickers nearby. A tall candle, its flame a trembling spark, in a holder on the wall walk. You shuffle closer, cupping your hands to shield it from the gusts, and feel its faint warmth kiss your skin. Medieval candles and rushlights were more than light sources. They were beacons of comfort. Torches lit grand halls, but on lonely posts, candles of animal fat, or, for the wealthy, beeswax offered both illumination and a subtle heat. No, they couldn't warm a room, but their glow thawed the spirit, reminding you of your own resilience. The tallow's greasy scent, earthy and slightly sour, Wade fills the air, a reminder of the livestock that gave their fat for this small flame. You lean in, mesmerized by its dance, as if it whispers, "I'm here until dawn." A quirky historical note. Soldiers sometimes clustered multiple candles together, their combined warmth raising a small space's temperature enough to dull the cold's edge. Some even placed candles under upturned clay pots, trapping heat like a crude radiator. Such ingenuity wasn't without risk. Misplaced flames sparked fires that could engulf a guardroom. Historians debate whether candles held deeper meaning for soldiers. Were they mere tools, or did their light carry hope, even sanctity, in the dark? You know the answer as you hover near the flame, its glow a quiet defiance against the night's weight. Your breath grazes the candle, and you pull back, heart skipping at the thought of snuffing it out. Its fragility mirrors your own. One gust, one misstep, and the comfort vanishes. Yet in its small, stubborn burn, you find a strange strength. The castle's cold may be relentless, but so are you, warmed by layers, straw, comrades, fires, and now this tiny flame. You stand watch, the candle your silent partner, its light a promise that even the longest night will end. The night presses in, its chill, a relentless foe, but you find solace in the faint glow of a tallow candle flickering on the wall walk. Its light is feeble, a delicate halo trembling against the dark, yet its warmth, however slight, feels like a lifeline. You hunch closer, shielding the flame from the biting wind, and its soft heat grazes your face, a fleeting comfort in the vast cold. The soundscape shifts as you focus. The candle's faint hiss as wax drips in slow rhythmic taps onto the stone. The wind's low moan rattling distant shutters, and the quiet buzz of the flame itself. It's a stark contrast, turbulent world beyond the battlements, but here, within the span of your hands, a fragile haven. You understand why moths are drawn to light, their instinct mirroring your own desperate pull toward this small glow. A comrade stomps up, boots thudding to shake warmth into his limbs, and grins through the scarf wrapped tight around his face. "In love with that flame, are you?" he jests, his voice muffled but warm with camaraderie. You offer a half-smile, too cold to reply, but in truth, you're bound to this candle by a quiet gratitude. He pulls a second stub from his pouch, lights it from yours, and sets it beside the first. Two flames now dance together, their combined glow pushing back the shadows, their warmth a touch more tangible. You both lean in, shoulders brushing, and watch the flickering lights defy the gusts. It's a small triumph, but in this frozen moment, it feels monumental. Medieval lore whispers of candles that burned brighter when peril loomed, or dimmed when death was near. Superstition, perhaps. But as the flames quiver, you can't help but read meaning in their motion. Each flicker feels like a signal, each sputter a caution. Historians debate whether such beliefs were widespread or mere embellishments. But for you, the candle is more than light. It's a companion, a spark of defiance against the night's weight. Its sensory presence anchors you. The slick drip of wax pooling like frozen dew, the faint sizzle as it hits the stone, the subtle warmth kissing your cheeks when you lean too close. A sudden gust slams the battlements, snuffing one flame. And you both instinctively shield the survivor, hands cupping it like a precious relic. The flame steadies, and the relief is almost laughable in its intensity. You chuckle, nerves frayed, realizing how much this tiny stub holds your sanity together. Scholars may analyze the candle's utility, its light, its modest heat, but no record captures its emotional weight. Fireplaces roared, braziers smoked, but candles murmured hope. They reminded soldiers that even the humblest light could endure. You pinch the wick, a wisp of tallow-scented smoke curling upward. You breathe it in, grimacing at its greasy temps, yet comforted by its familiarity. Tomorrow, another candle will take its place, another small ally against the dark. You descend the stairs, the flame's afterglow lingering in your eyes. A reminder that in a castle of unyielding stone, even the faintest spark feels like a gift. Your watch complete, you trudge through the courtyard, aching from the cold's relentless grip. A contrast catches your eye. The towering stone keep, its walls a frozen fortress, looms beside a smaller wooden structure, a granary or watchtower, its timber planks weathered but inviting. Instinct draws you toward the wood, and as you step inside, the difference is immediate. The air isn't warm, but it's kinder, less sharp than the stone's bite. Wood, unlike stone, clings to warmth, resisting the cold that radiates from granite after dusk. The timbers creak softly, as if alive, their groans a stark contrast to the keep's dead silence. Medieval Europe's early fortifications often relied on wood before stone castles dominated. Archaeological finds like Matan Bailey's structures' wooden towers, atop earthen mounds, reveal their practicality. They were quicker to build, cheaper, and crucially more livable in winter. Chroniclers noted that soldiers in wooden keeps fared better against the cold than those in grand stone halls, where drafts and dampness ruled. You run your fingers along the planks, feeling the rough grain and catching the faint, resinous scent of pine or oak. It's a soothing change from the damp, mineral odor of limestone, conjuring fleeting images of a forest cabin rather than a fortress. A curious practice emerges from history. Soldiers often sealed gaps in wooden walls with moss, clay, or even straw mixed with dung, a crude but effective insulation borrowed from peasant homes. You can imagine them, laughing through grimaces as they packed the foul mixture into cracks, joking that it kept both cold and spirits at bay. Historians debate whether stone castles were chosen purely for defense or if lords believed they offered better living conditions. Stone projected power and permanence, but at a cost soldiers shivered in its embrace, while wooden structures, humble and temporary, offered a gentler refuge. Some argue well-designed stone castles, with tapestries and clever venting, could be warmer, but such luxuries rarely reach the common soldier. Inside the wooden tower, the air feels alive. The walls sigh in the wind, their creaks softer than stone's hollow echoes. The faint crackle of resin in the timbers adds a comforting rhythm, as if the structure breathes with you. You settle on a bench, leaning against the wall, find it neutral rather than chilling, a stark contrast to the keep's icy grip. The scent of sap and damp wood wraps around you, grounding you in something organic. Your comrades mutter nearby, grumbling about the Lord's tapestried chambers, while they endure stone barracks. One jests he'd trade his spear for a peasant's wooden hut until spring. And the laughter rings truth. They all feel the same. You picture village cottages, their wattle and daub walls and low roofs far humbler than this castle, yet warmer, their hearths sustaining families through winter. In a siege, stone might hold against arrows, but would cradle its occupants. You imagine a long siege that keeps walls leaching heat, frost trimming beards, and supplies dwindling until men burned benches or rafters to feed the fire. Here, in this wooden haven, survival feels less distant. Someone has stuffed moss into the wall's gaps, and you silently thank their foresight. The earthy aroma of wood and labor lingers, a reminder of the small, stubborn efforts that make the night bearable. You close your eyes, the timber's warmth physical, and imagine easing you toward rest, a fleeting escape from winter's grasp. You slump in the great hall, the fire's embers casting long shadows as the scent of wood smoke clings to your cloak. Your stomach rumbles, a reminder that warmth lies in tea just found in braziers, or blanket sit in what you consume. You shuffle to the trestle table, where a steaming pot of broth awaits, ladled into rough-hewn bowls for the next in line. The first sip is a revelation, heat blooming across your tongue and sliding down your throat, settling in your chest like a glowing coal. It's simple fare barley, a few root vegetables, perhaps a sliver of salted pork bobbing like a rare gem, but it transforms you. The cold still claws at the walls, but within you carry a spark of defiance. Medieval garrisons leaned heavily on hot liquids to combat winter's bite. Ale, weak wine, and broth were dietary staples, especially since water was often unsafe. In colder months, these were warmed over coals, sometimes spiced with herbs like thyme, or, in wealthier castles, exotic imports like cinnamon. Pottages, thick stews of peas, lentils, or whatever scraps were available were not mere meals, but vital defenses. Chronicles from the 14th century note commanders ordering extra servings of hot broth during grueling winter watches, recognizing that a warm belly bolstered morale as much as muscle. You tilt the bowl again, steam warming your face, the earthy, salted flavor stinging your cracked lips. Around you, soldiers sip eagerly, some blowing on their bowls, others wincing as the heat bites their tongues. The hall hums with the clatter of spoons, soft gulps, and contented sighs, a symphony of survival. A curious custom emerges from history. Soldiers often swore by hot ale, sometimes thickened with butter or egg yolk, into a drink called posset. This creamy concoction, a medieval precursor to eggnog, was believed to fortify against chills and even ease sleep. Picture grizzled warriors sipping frothy ale, grinning as it coated their mustaches, their spirits lifted by its warmth. Historians debate whether such warming rations reached all soldiers or were reserved for those of higher rank. Castle inventories suggest abundance in well-stocked fortresses, with cauldrons, simmering gallons of broth, and casks of ale on hand. Yet sparser records tell of lean winters, where men chewed frozen bread or drank melted snow when supplies ran thin. The reality likely varied, some seasons generous, others cruel, but the universal need for warmth in the gut-bound lord and soldier alike. Your senses drink in the moment, the steam's damp heat against your nose, the broth's salty temps, the slow spread of warmth from stomach to fingertips. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw softens, the tension you carried unnoticed melting away. A soldier nearby raises his bowl with a grin. Worth more than a sheepskin, he declares, and murmurs of agreement ripple through the group. The broth's fleeting comfort is fragile, the pot will empty, hunger will return, but for now, it's enough. You gaze into the cloudy liquid, barley grains swirling like tiny stars, and feel a quiet reverence. This isn't just food. It's a shield against the cold. You think of the peasants beyond the walls, stirring their own thin soups in mud-walled huts, their lives mirroring yours in this shared ritual of warmth. The cold levels all, from castle to cottage. A whispered superstition circulates. A man who drinks hot broth at midnight will outlast the frost by dawn. You're not sure you believe it, but the thought is comforting, a small act of faith in a world of stone and ice. The steam fades, but its memory lingers, mingling with the hall's smoky air. Historians may argue over ration records, but they can dispute the power of this moment, the private victory of warmth spreading through your core. You scrape the last drops from your bowl, the wooden spoon's salty grain a final gift, and lie back on your pallet. The cold will return, unyielding, but tonight, you carry an ember within, a quiet belief that you can endure. Hunger gnaws again as night falls, your belly still warmed by last night's broth, but craving something denser, something that sticks. Tonight, it's salted, meta-tough, briny slab of beef that glints with salt crystals under the torchlight. You carve thin slices with your knife, each cut a labor, and pop a piece into your mouth. Your jaws ache as you chew, the salt stinging your tongue, but as it softens, a slow warmth spreads, grounding you. It's not tender or fresh, but it's fuel, a stubborn ally against winter's cruelty. Preserved meats were a cornerstone of medieval soldiers' diets, especially in winter. Salting, smoking, or drying beef, pork, or fish ensured food lasted through lean months or sieges. Castle records from the Hundred Years' War detailed daily rations of salted meat. Paired with bread and ale, a monotonous but vital diet. Salt was a treasure, taxed and guarded, not just for flavor, but for its power to preserve. It warded off spoilage and disease, a bulwark against the infections that could fell a garrison faster than swords. You bite again, the brine sharp enough to make your lips smart, but you savor it. A barrier against sickness in a world where rot could kill. A peculiar practice stands out. Soldiers often soaked salted meat in ale or broth overnight to make it chewable, transforming leather-like strips into something edible. Some even wrapped it in damp cloth and set it near a brazier, letting the heat coax out its toughness. The result was a pungent mix of savory and sour, a far cry from a feast, but a triumph in the cold. You can imagine the grim humor soldiers joking that their meat was tougher than their boots, or that ale was as much a cook as a drink. Historians debate whether salted meat truly warmed the body or merely tricked it into feeling stronger. Modern nutritionists note its protein and calories fueled endurance, but its high salt content could dehydrate, driving soldiers to drink more ales, sometimes stumbling through watches in a haze. Was it sustenance or a subtle poison? The answer likely depended on the castle's stores and the winter's length. Your senses are alive with the meat's intensity, the sharp crunch of salt, the fibrous resistance yielding under persistent chewing, the metallic, earthy aftertaste lingering like a memory of the animal it once was. The hall is quiet, filled only with the steady grind of jaws, an occasional grimace as someone spits out a too salty morsel, then shrugs and bites again. It's not pleasure, but a ritual, and rituals anchor you. Your comrades chew in silence, their focus a testament to the meat's importance. You swallow, feeling the warmth spread, a slow fire kindling in your gut. For a moment, you're not just surviving, you're fighting back, one bite at a time. You watch a comrade slice his salted meat with care, each strip cut with near reverence before he tucks them into his pouch for later. Another soldier shoves his entire ration into his mouth, chewing furiously as if to outrun its toughness. You grin at their quirks, each man's method a small rebellion against the ration's monotony. The air in the hall is thick with the briny scent of salt, mingled with wood smoke and a faint whiff of decay no barrel can fully mask. Your nose wrinkles, but you keep chewing. Hunger makes you forgiving. Your thoughts drift beyond the castle to the peasants in their huts, stirring pottages of cabbage and leeks. Their meals may lack meat, but you wonder if they taste better than this briny slab. Do they envy your soldier's ration, or pity you for gnawing preserved flesh like a scavenger? In winter, the line between envy and pity blurs. Everyone's just fighting to survive the night. A soldier breaks the quiet, sharing a superstition. Eating meat before sleep wards off dark dreams, anchoring the spirit to the body. Some scoff, but you pause, wondering if the salt itself might be a charm, preserving not just meat but resolve. Historians often focus on salted meat's scarcity or monotony, overlooking its role as a ritual of endurance. In the torchlight's flicker, each bite cut, chew, swallow becomes a mantra, a vow to outlast the cold. You lick the salt from your fingers, the sting on your cracked skin, a sharp reminder of life. Leaning back on your straw pallet, the meat's weight settles in your stomach, solid and unyielding, much like the castle itself. Tomorrow, you'll curse its sameness, but tonight, it's a small victory, a dense core of strength against the prowling frost. The torch is dim, and the captain's hand grips your shoulder, pulling you from the haze of warmth. Your turn, he grunts. You mutter a curse under your breath but rise, duty heavier than your cloak. The castle may rest, but it can't afford to sleep blind. You tug on your frost-stiffened cloak and climb to the wall walk, where the wind hits like a blade, slicing through every seam. Clutching your spear, you begin pacing, each step a desperate bid to keep your blood moving. Medieval night watches were grueling, often stretching hours in the darkest, coldest time. Guard duty was both vital and punishing, vital to protect against surprise attacks, punishing for the exposure it demanded. Chronicles tell of soldiers collapsing from cold or exhaustion, their only fault an unlucky shift. Some commanders rotated watches to spare their men. Others left them to fate, letting frost claim the weak, your breath clouds in the air, boots crunching on icy stone. The night sounds are sparse, the creak of a distant beam, a dog's bark from the village, the wind's low howl. Your ears strain for danger. Footfall on the drawbridge, the clink of a ladder, the hiss of an arrow butt. Silence is the true foe, stretching time until dawn feels like a myth. A curious custom emerges from history: to fight sleep. Some soldiers hummed soft tunes or chewed hard bread, the act of keeping their minds alert. Others, in desperation, pricked their skin with knife tips, small stings to jolt the body awake. You grimace at the thought, your endless pacing punishment enough. Historians debate the severity of punishments for dozing sentries. Some accounts speak of execution, others of floggings or docked pay. The truth likely varied by lord or war, but fear kept eyes open, driving men to march through numb toes and frozen fingers. The cold seeps through your boots, your spear shaft, a rod of ice in your hand. You slap your arms, blow into your palms, but the relief is fleeting. Your nose drips, eyes sting, and each breath rasps in the frigid air. The torch sputters, its flame dancing wildly, casting shadows that twist like specters across the walls. The scent of damp stone mixes with your cloak's frozen sweat and the faint salt lingering from your meal. You pass another sentry, his face shadowed, lips tinged blue. A nod is all you exchange, a silent pact between two souls bound by duty. Your captain's words echo. Keep moving. A still man's a dead man. The truth of it chills you deeper than the wind. To stop is to invite sleep, and sleep courts death. Your mind wanders to keep sane visions of a warm hearth, a loved one's embrace, or children laughing under blankets. These are fantasies, but they fuel you. Sudden sound, an owl's hoot snaps you, alert heart pounding, until you realize it's just a bird. You laugh shakily, grateful for the break in monotony. A whispered superstition claims an owl's call on watch brings luck, a sign the heavens guard you too. You cling to it, willing to believe anything that promises hope. Historians may call watch duty cruel, but you know it's not cruelty. It's endurance, refusal to break under the weight of cold and silence. As dawn's first light paints the horizon, you sag in relief, handing your spear to the next man. Stumble to your pallet, collapsing as sleep claims you, the cold still biting, but duty done. You've survived another night. You wake stiff and sore, your hands protesting as you flex them, the memory of the spear's icy grip etched into your palms. A new thought strikes. The weapons themselves are winter's allies. Steel sword, spearhead, or helmet turns, traitor in the cold, becoming as frigid as the stones beneath your feet. Touch it barehanded, and it burns like frost, stealing warmth faster than the wind. Medieval soldiers knew this danger well. Misplaced blade or helm left exposed overnight could sear skin as surely as fire. You wince, recalling the sting of gripping your spear, the metal seeming to drink the life from your fingers. Chronicles rarely detail this peril, but practical accounts suggest soldiers wrapped weapon handles in cloth or leather to insulate them, a small defense against frost's bite. Curious practice emerges. Some garrisons stored weapons near hearths or braziers overnight, keeping steel from freezing solid. Others rubbed blades with grease knot, just for maintenance, but to dull the cold's grip. Historians note that steel's treachery extended beyond discomfort. Frostbitten hands struggled to wield swords, and frozen armor could slow a soldier in battle. You flex your raw fingers, feeling the ache, and marvel at how even your tools conspire against you. The scent of metal lingers on your hands, sharp and cold, mingling with the straw's earthy musk. In this castle, survival demands vigilance, not just against enemies, but against the very weapons meant to protect you. You hunch near the brazier, its faint warmth a lifeline, as you tend to your sword. The blade, dull in the flickering light, is as cold as the stone beneath your feet. Its chill biting your fingers at the lightest touch. Medieval soldiers maintained their weapons not just for battle, but to survive the elements. Steel, unforgiving in winter, could grow brittle, its edges cracking or mail link seizing as frost expanded, trapped moisture. Spear shafts might splinter, Helmets fracture under the cold's relentless grip. Chronicles describe garrisons battling rust and ice as fiercely as any foe, polishing blades with oil or animal fat to keep them functional. A frozen hilt could weld to bare skin, rendering a weapon useless or worse, a liability. Across the guardroom, comrades huddle by the hearth, rubbing swords and spearheads with tallow-soaked rags. The air grows heavy with the greasy, animalistic scent of fat, sharp and clinging. You draw your blade, wincing as its cold stings your palm, and set to work, dragging a cloth along the steel. Motion is steady, almost meditative, each stroke coaxing a faint glint from the metal. A curious practice emerges from history. Soldiers sometimes tuck daggers or small axes under cloaks or bedding to keep them warm overnight. Not just for quick access, but to prevent frost from locking their grips. Some tales, likely exaggerated, speak of men warming frozen hilts with urine in desperate moments before battle. A grim necessity when dignity bowed to survival. Historians debate whether such improvisations were widespread or rare, with some arguing knights kept their gear pristine through disciplined care, while others suggest common soldiers made do with crude fixes. The truth likely varied by wealth and rank. Squires ensured a lord's armor gleamed, while foot soldiers scraped by with rags and grit. Your senses sharpen with the task. The thick, fatty tang of tallow in your nose, the rough scrape of cloth against steel, the faint hum of metal under each pass. Your breath clouds the blade, frosting it as fast as you wipe it clean, a reminder of the cold's persistence. A comrade curses as he tests his helmet's rim, its icy edge biting his fingers. This thing could shear off an ear, he grumbles, setting it near the brazier, where it hisses softly. Another pulls a dagger from his tunic, grinning. Slept with it closed nearly, took a rib, but it's not frozen. The room chuckles, the humor thin but vital, a thread of humanity in the chill. Weapons, meant to protect, turn treacherous in winter, their steel as much a foe as any enemy. You wonder if the true battle is against the season itself, nature humbling even the mightiest blade. You sheath your sword, satisfied it won't betray you, and shift closer to the brazier's warmth, flexing your stinging fingers, determined to keep your grip when it counts. The next morning you wake stiff, the straws prickle, and your cloak's smoky scent grounding you in the familiar. The captain's call pulls you to the courtyard where the air bites and your breath clouds. Drilling in this cold seems madness, your sluggish muscles protesting. But as you clutch a wooden practice pole and line up with your comrades, the purpose dawns. This isn't just discipline, it's survival. Movement chases the frost from your bones. Medieval records confirm commanders ordered winter drills, not always expecting attack, but to keep soldiers warm and sharp. Chronicles describe troops practicing sword forms or spear thrusts in icy courtyards, their motion a bulwark against cold's lethargy. One scribe wrote that soldiers marched to drive death from their limbs, a vivid nod to the dual role of training, readiness for war and defiance of winter. Your boots thud against the frozen ground, the rhythm of step turn, step kindling heat in your core. Steam rises from the group, the courtyard a haze of breath like a simmering pot. A curious northern tradition emerges. Some garrisons turn drills into rhythmic chants or stomping dances, blending exercise with celebration. Outsiders might have scoffed, but the result was undeniable sweat, laughter, and warmth in the bleakest months. Historians debate whether these drills were symbolic displays of discipline or practical efforts to boost circulation. Likely both. Movement warmed the body, while routine fortified the spirit. You feel it now, the cold muted as your blood stirs, your cloak flapping with each pivot. The courtyard rings with the crack of wooden staves, the thud of boots, and the captain's barked commands, pushing you to move faster, strike harder. The air carries the sharp scent of sweat, mingling with the cold's crisp bite. Your lungs burn, each breath tasting of copper, but the warmth spreading through you feels like strength reborn. A comrade jests, "If we die, at least we'll be limber," and laughter ripples through the ranks, a spark of defiance. The drill's paradox unfolds. What should exhaust you restores you, each swing and step, a rebellion against the frost. As the captain calls a halt, you collapse onto a bench, steam rising from your open cloak, your body humming with hard-won heat. Back on your pallet that night, the ache in your muscles is a quiet triumph. The cold waits outside. But for now, You've stolen warmth from the day's exertion. A fragile victory in winter's endless siege. Evening brings the cold's return, its throne unchallenged. You rub your hands, wincing at the angry red patches blooming across your knuckles. They burn when pressed, sting when flexed, yet feel oddly numb at rest, a cruel paradox of frost's touch. Frostbite was a silent predator in medieval garrisons, creeping into fingers, toes, and noses during long watches. Chronicles rarely dwell on it, but medical texts from the period describe soldiers losing digits to the cold. Their skin blackened by frost's bite. Prevention was crude, wrapping hands in cloth, rubbing them with snow to restore circulation, or slathering them with animal fat to shield against the wind. Oh, you flex your fingers, the pain sharp but grounding, a reminder you're still whole. A comrade notices, tossing you a rag dipped in tallow. Rub it in, he says, keeps the frost from claiming you. You do, the greasy warmth soothing the raw patches. A quirky remedy surfaces. Some soldiers chewed garlic or onions, believing the pungent heat could warm the blood and fend off frostbite. Others tucked hot stones into gloves or boots, a risky but effective trick. Historians debate how well these methods worked. Fat and cloth offered some protection, but severe frostbite often outpaced such fixes. Your senses flare. The tallow's oily scent, the rag's rough drag across your skin, the faint crackle of the brazier nearby. The cold still prowls, but for now, your hands are yours, a small defiance against winter's creeping claim. You frown, staring at the raw, reddened patches on your knuckles, knowing the stakes if the cold claims victory. Frostbite is a whispered terror in the barracks, spoken of with a mix of dread and grim bravado. Tales circulate of blackened toes, peeling flesh, and fingers lost to the frost, leaving men unable to grip a spear or march in formation. Around the guardroom, soldiers mirror your actions, rubbing hands, stamping feet, blowing warm breath into cupped palms, a collective defiance against the creeping chill. Medieval chronicles, especially from Northern Europe, paint a stark picture. Monks describe soldiers whose extremities fell like wax from a taper, while military logs noted men rendered unfit after winter campaigns, their hands or feet numbed or lost to frost's bite. Castles shielded against swords, but winter's cruelty slipped through every crack. A comrade peels cloth from his feet, revealing pale, almost ashen toes. He grimaces, massaging them fiercely, as if willpower alone could coax life back. Another slathers goose grease onto his hands, the oily sheen, a frail barrier against the cold's hunger. Curious remedies abounded. Some soldiers rubbed onion juice or vinegar onto their skin, leaving the sharp sting kept frost at bay. Others pinned small relics or blessed tokens beneath their wrappings, trusting divine favor to protect them. One bizarre tale speaks of men warming frozen hands with their own urine. In desperate moments, a humiliating but practical act, when frostbite loomed, historians debate the efficacy of these methods. Animal fats likely offered some insulation, reducing moisture loss. But many remedies were more ritual than cure, bolstering morale against an indifferent enemy. Frostbite took what it wanted, charm or no charm. The guardroom hums with sensory detail. The sharp, fatty scent of goose grease mingles with damp wool's earthiness, while the sounds of rubbing hands, slapping skin, and muttered curses form a desperate chorus. You knead your calves, feeling the prick of returning circulation. Force a cracked lip smile, pain means you're still whole. The captain stalks through, his gaze stern. Keep moving or lose them, he snaps at a soldier sitting too still, nodding toward his feet. The warning is clear. No one wants to be the man hobbling on bandaged stumps. A comrade leans close. Whispering, they say, "Frost spirits snatch fingers and toes. Wrap tight, or they'll pick you next." You chuckle faintly, superstition feeling truer than reason in the dark. The body is fragile yet defiant, men marching on even as frost claims their flesh. You lie on your pallet, rubbing your hands relentlessly, tucking them under your armpits, feeling the faint pulse in your wrists. A silent plea escapes. Others mirror the ritual, guarding their bodies as fiercely as the castle walls. Sleep comes shallowly, haunted by the knowledge that frostbite waits, patient and merciless. Morning dawns pale and weak, sunlight spilling feebly across the battlements, as if even the sun lacks strength in winter. You rise from your pallet, straw crackling beneath you, every joint protesting. The cold strikes hardest at the extremities. Hands can be bound, but feet are vital. Without them, you can't climb, march, or stand watch. Medieval soldiers obsessed over foot care, as garrison logs attest. Wet, frozen feet spelled disaster. Losing toes meant losing your place in the ranks. Boots, often leather with wool linings, were rarely waterproof, so the challenge was keeping them warm. You tug off your boots, the stench hitting hard damp leather, sour wool, and the acrid bite of sweat trapped overnight. You grimace, but press on, survival outweighing discomfort. Your hose cling unpleasantly, and beside you, a comrade unwraps his feet, their red, swollen skin a warning of frost's reach. He curses, rubbing them with vigor as if defiance could restore them. A peculiar practice stands out. Soldiers layered their feet with footcloth strips of linen or wool wrapped like bandages, or stuffed boots with straw or moss for insulation. A trick learned from peasants. It turned shoes into makeshift ovens, trapping heat for a few precious hours. You follow suit, packing straw into your boot toes, ignoring the itch as it scratches your skin. Historians debate the effectiveness of these methods. Archaeological finds of medieval footwear, stuffed with plant fibers, suggest insulation worked. But dampness and pests often bred sores or infections, trading one risk for another. The sensory assault is vivid, the straw's prickly texture, the creak of stiff leather as you pull boots back on, the rhythmic stomp of soldiers beating their shoes against the floor. It's a defiant drumbeat, a refusal to let winter win. You wiggle your toes, feeling the faint warmth, and know that for now you've held the line against the frost's advance. The captain's call pulls you to the courtyard, where the air bites and your breath clouds. Drilling in such a cold seems absurd, but as you grip a wooden practice pole and join the ranks, the purpose dawns. Movement is life. Medieval commanders ordered winter drills not just for discipline, but to keep blood flowing, chasing frost from limbs. Chronicles describe soldiers practicing swordplay or marching in icy courtyards, their exertions a shield against lethargy. One scribe noted that troops moved to banish death from their bones, blending preparation for war with survival's necessity. Your boots thud against frozen ground, the rhythm of step, turn, step sparking heat in your core. Steam rises from the group, the courtyard a haze of breath and effort. A curious northern custom emerges. Some garrisons turn drills into rhythmic chants or stomping dances, blending exercise with camaraderie. It looked mad to outsiders, but it warmed bodies and spirits. Historians debate whether these drills were symbolic or practical, likely both, sustaining morale while boosting circulation. You feel it now, the cold dulled as your muscles ignite, your cloak flapping with each swing. The courtyard echoes with the crack of staves, the thud of boots, and the captain's sharp commands. Sweat beads despite the chill, its pungent scent a proof of life. Your lungs burn, tasting copper, but the warmth spreading through you feels like strength reborn. A comrade jests, "If we fall, at least we'll be loose," and laughter ripples, a fleeting warmth. As the drill ends, you slump onto a bench. Steam rising from your open cloak, the afterglow of exertion, a quiet triumph against winter's grip. You smile faintly at the banter around you, where one soldier quips, "Blisters beat black toes any day," while another boasts of double-layered hose, claiming he's the warmest in the room. Humor, as vital as wool, stitches the garrison together. Medieval accounts note soldiers sleeping in their boots to shield their feet from the cold's grasp. A grim choice between filth and frostbite. The stench would be fierce, but survival trumps pride. Even nobles with fur-lined boots sometimes wrapped their legs in extra pelts at night, unwilling to risk their toes. The captain strides through, his voice a gravelly mix of command and care. "Keep your feet dry. Wrap them tight. Keep moving." He's seen Frost's tollmen hobbling into spring, maimed, their soldiering days done. A footless man is no warrior. You stomp your boots, the straw inside scratching but trapping heat, coaxing blood back to your toes. The sensation is both sting and salvation, pins and needles signaling life's return. You laugh softly, relieved to feel anything at all. Snow piles against the doorway, a reminder of the night ahead, but for now, your wrapped feet and stuffed boots are armor against the frost. Swords may win battles, but woolen rags and stubborn steps win winters. You shoulder your cloak and step into the courtyard, resolving hardening with each crunch of snow. Chronicles rarely praise footcloths, but you know their truth. In the Cold War, the humblest defenses matter most. The day drags, gray and unrelenting, until a scent wood smoke and baking bread pulls you toward the castle's heart. The kitchens, you follow the aroma through winding corridors, stepping into a room where warmth spills like a broken dam. The air is thick with heat from roaring ovens and hearths, a stark contrast to the barracks' icy drafts. Your lungs drink it in, free of winter's ache. The kitchen pulses with life. Flames crackle under cauldrons, spits groan with turning meat, fat hisses as it drips into the fire, filling the air with savory smoke. Soldiers linger near the ovens, pretending to help but soaking in the heat like weary travelers at an oasis. Medieval records confirm kitchens were the warmest castle spaces, their fires burning constantly to feed garrisons. Unlike the great hall's fleeting hearths, kitchen heat was relentless, baking bread and simmering stews for hundreds. Sneaking in was a soldier's quiet rebellion, a bid for comfort if the cooks turned a blind eye. You edge closer to an oven, hands tingling as warmth floods them, and lean against the stone, its heat a balm to your aching joints. A sigh escapes, drawing a grin from a comrade basking nearby. A curious detail from records. Soldiers sometimes bribed cooks with coin or favors for a night's sleep near the ovens, where even bare stone felt like a luxury compared to icy pallets. Disputes over these coveted spots could spark scuffles or laughter, depending on the ale's flow. Historians debate how open kitchens were to soldiers. Some say cooks guarded their domain fiercely, others that lords allowed it to keep men healthy. Standing here, the heat loosening your muscles, you believe men always found a way to steal warmth. Rules be damned. The sensory onslaught is a feast. The fires crackle, the rhythmic chop of knives, the intoxicating blend of fresh bread, sizzling onions, and roasting meat. Your stomach growls, but the heat alone feeds your spirit. A soldier mutters, "Better than a lord's bed," and you nod, knowing a night here would be worth half your pay. A quirky practice emerges. Soldiers heated stones in ovens, wrapping them in cloth to carry under cloaks or tuck into bedding. Their warmth a shield against the wall walks chill. You've tried it, clutching a hot brick on watch, your heart warmed even as your fingers froze. You eye the distracted cooks, tempted to linger, but even a scolding ladle wouldn't dim this moment. As you leave, the heat's memory clings smoke in your hair, bread scent on your cloak a talisman against the night's cold. A reminder that warmth is survival, hope, and defiance baked into the kitchen's glow. Back in the barracks, the kitchen's warmth fades, and reality bites. Not all fight the cold equally. You settle onto your straw pallet, its stalks jabbing your back, in the keep's heart. Officers sink into feather beds. Medieval inventories confirm the Divide Lords and their retinue slept on down-filled mattresses. Quilts and furs raised from the icy floor, while soldiers made do with straw and wool. Feathers cradled warmth, unlike straw's damp itch, offering a softness you can only imagine. You've heard tales of sinking into such a bed, enveloped like a bird in its nest, free of fleas or mildew stink. The contrast stings as you shift on your lumpy pallet, envying the officers who sleep in comfort tonight. A peculiar detail from castle records. Noble beds were so plush they required servants to fluff them nightly, a ritual as absurd to you as it was real. While you rub frost from your toes, others are cushioned in luxury. Historians debate how widespread featherbeds were reserved for lords or extended to lesser officers. Some garrisons used wool-stuffed mattresses, but the elite's comfort was undeniable, their status measured in softness. Your senses conjured the fantasy, the gentle rustle of feathers, faint herbal scent of clean linen, warmth wrapping you without a straw's prick. Reality snaps back as a stalk jabs your ribs, the barracks mildew heavy in the air. Around you, men mutter, scratching bites, their restless shifts a chorus of shared struggle. You wonder if those above remember the straw's bite, or if their featherbeds erase the cold's truth. For now, you pull your cloak tight, clinging to the kitchen's lingering memory, and let sleep take you however uneasily. The chapel's bells toll softly, their notes dulled by snow piling against the walls. You rise from your straw pallet, joints creaking, and shuffle toward the sound, drawn by the promise of something beyond the cold. Religion was a constant in medieval garrisons, especially in winter's depths. When cloaks, fires, and rations failed, soldiers turned to prayer, seeking warmth for the soul, if not the body. Monastic chronicles describe fervent, if brief, chapel services where psalms were murmured through chapped lips and candles burned despite scarce fuel. The act of gathering in the chapel, with its flickering light and shared chants, countered the loneliness that rivaled frost as a silent killer. You slip into the dim space, joining a handful of kneeling comrades. The air is frigid, your breath clouding, but the candles glow and the rhythm of prayer dull the ache in your bones. The stone floor bites your knees, but the pain grounds you, a distraction from your stiff joints. A curious practice emerges from records. Soldiers adapted prayers into rituals of warmth, tracing crosses not just on foreheads, but on boots or gloves, as if blessing their extremities against frostbite. Some whispered charms blending faith and folklore, invoking saints to heat their blood or reciting verses while rubbing hands. The repetition itself sparked warmth, however slight. Historians debate whether these acts were deeply spiritual or practical psychology pleas to heaven, or structured distractions from despair. Likely both. In the chapel's hush, faith and survival entwine. You feel it now, your shoulders easing, your pulse steadying, as you murmur words half-believed, half-hoped. The sensory world shifts, the low hum of chants, the candles crackle fighting drafts. The faint beeswax scent mingling with damp wool and musty prayer books. Your fingers trace the pew's splintered grain, tethering you to the moment. A comrade prays fiercely, eyes shut, whispering, St. Martin. Warm my feet as you shared your cloak. Another grips his rosary, beads denting his palm. You wonder if the saints listen, if heaven spares a glance for shivering soldiers. Yet the act of prayer warms you not measurably, but in the way it quiets fear, making the cold less predatory. Historians may dismiss such rituals as superstition, but here, they're a lifeline. Belief, whether in saints or charms, keeps surrender at bay. As prayers end, you linger, reluctant to face the drafts outside. The candles sputter, wax pooling like frozen tears, their fragile flames a mirror to your own defiance. You step into the corridor, the cold biting instantly, but the chant's echo steadies you. Amen, you whisper, lips cracking, carrying the chapel's faint warmth into the night. Back in the barracks, the chapel's solace fades, replaced by the groans of soldiers bracing for another frozen night. Yet the mood shifts to talk of charms and talismans, as if prayer has opened a door to older beliefs. Medieval soldiers, steeped in Christian rites, clung to superstitions like extra layers against the cold. Chronicles note men pinning herbs, bones, or scraps of parchment with saints' names into cloaks, blending faith and folklore. If a blessed token might save a finger from frostbite, who wouldn't carry one? You sit on your pallet as a comrade opens a pouch, revealing dried sage and rosemary. Drives off frost spirits, he says, tossing a pinch into the brazier. The herbs crackle, their sharp scent cutting through the barracks' musty wool. Curious customs abound. Some soldiers sewed tiny crosses into cloak hems, believing they blocked drafts with holy power. Others tied wolf fur to wrists, hoping the beast's strength would fortify them, or carried animal knuckle bones, rattled like dice to ward off cold. These acts seem odd, even comical, but in the grip of winter's ache, any promise of aid feels vital. Historians debate their prevalence. Were they common among rural-born soldiers, or rare quirks tolerated in silence? Evidence suggests superstition thrived where suffering lingered, a natural response to relentless cold. You watch the brazier's smoke curl, the herbal temps a fleeting shield against despair. Your senses hum, the brazier's soft pop, the rustle of straw as men shift. The weight of your own cloak, heavy with damp and hope. Comrade fingers a worn cord around his neck, a charm hidden beneath his tunic. No one mocks him. In this castle, belief is as practical as a blade. The barracks chatter turns bitter as a comrade grumbles. You're sleeping like babes in nests up there. While where the geese plucked bare, laughter ripples, hollow but real, humor a thin armor against envy. The castle's hierarchy is stark even in sleep. Officers rest in feather beds, down-filled mattresses, and fur-lined quilts while you and your comrades wrestle with straw and frost. Medieval inventories confirm this divide. Lords and their retinue slept raised from icy floors, cocooned in warmth, while soldiers endured lumpy pallets. Feather beds, soft and insulating, were a luxury you can only imagine. Their gentle rustle and herbal-scented linen, a far cry from straw-s itch and mildew-s stink. You envy those above, their rest unbroken by stalks or fleas. A peculiar detail emerges. Noble beds were so plush they required servants to fluff them nightly, a ritual absurd to men rubbing frost from their toes. Historians debate how widespread these comforts were, exclusive to lords or shared by lesser officers. Some garrisons used wool mattresses, but the elite's advantage was clear, their status measured in softness. You shift on your pallet, a stalk jabbing your back and a picture sinking into feathers, the cold, a distant memory. The barracks sounds muttered curses, scratching at bites underscore the divide. Do those above recall the straw's bite? Your senses cling to the fantasy, the imagined warmth of down, the silence of a draft-free chamber. Sleep claims you, but not before a whispered thought. Maybe in another life. The barracks hum with the faint rituals of survival, the air sharp with the tang of burning herbs and the sting of smoke in your eyes. You hear the rustle of cloaks as men adjust hidden amulets, small clinks of coins or charms tied to leather cords. A soldier across the room mutters, his words a blur of prayer and incantation, hands rubbing briskly, as if the rhythm itself sparks warmth. Your fingers find the wooden token sewn inside your cloak. A simple disc, etched with a crude sun, a gift from a villager before you joined the garrison. You've never truly believed in its power, but tonight you grip it tightly, its smoothness warm from your body's heat. The villager's voice echoes in your mind. The sun stays with you. Foolish perhaps, but as your teeth chatter less, you wonder if belief itself is a kind of fire. A comrade breaks the tension, dangling a rabbit's foot with a grin. My shield against frost, he boasts, sparking groans and laughter. Roast it for supper, another retorts, the jest easing the room's weight. Humor, however thin, binds you together, making the absurd bearable. Yet darker whispers linger, tales of soldiers who blamed lost charms for cracked blades or persistent coughs, their despair deepening with each missing trinket. Faith can comfort or consume. Still, the barracks feel warmer tonight, not from the brazier's glow, but from shared hope. Stories of saints walking barefoot in snow, or amulets glowing against frost fill the air, insulating against loneliness. You clutch your token, its wood a quiet anchor, and ponder the blurred line between prayer and superstition. Survival doesn't care for truth, only what keeps you breathing until spring. Sleep pulls you under, the rosemary's fading scent and the sting of smoke linger, your dreams flickering with charms that burn like embers against the dark. Snow heaps against the castle walls by evening, drifts piling like pale dunes, the air so sharp each breath stings like thorns. You trudge across the courtyard, boots crunching, and spot soldiers carving a hollow in the snow with helmets and hands. You laugh, thinking them mad, but curiosity draws you closer. They're crafting Sheltora snow cave. Medieval chronicles, especially from northern campaigns, mention soldiers burrowing into drifts when wood was scarce, instinctively knowing snow could trap body heat better than open air. Pits lined with cloaks or straw offered refuge from biting winds. You crawl into the hollow at their urging. The world shifts. The wind's howl muffles, silence cloaking you like a heavy quilt. The cold floor persists, but your face no longer stings. You blink in awe. Snow, once a foe, now shields you. A comrade grins at your surprise. Bet of frost to fend off frost, he mutters. Historical anecdotes describe soldiers lining snow shelters with moss or straw, turning them into crude igloos, or setting braziers at entrances to warm the air without melting the walls. Historians debate how common this was, desperate measures for northern campaigns, or a broader practice in lean winters. Crouched in this glowing hollow, its walls shimmering blue in the torchlight, you believe it was widespread? The sensory shift is stark. Your breath echoes loudly, fogging the close air. The snow's clean, crisp scent replaces the barracks smoke. Your fingers trace the smooth, icy walls, marveling at their strength. A soldier jests. Like a grave, but warmer than the wall walk. Nervous laughter follows, the truth too close for comfort. A superstition surfaces, snow remembers who lies in it. Respect it, and it cradles you. Curse it, and it buries you. You shiver, half from cold, half from the eerie words. And stroke the wall gently, whispering, be kind. The damp seeps into your hose. Boots growing wetter, but compared to the wind's bite outside, it's a small price. You doze, lulled by the muffled silence and your comrade's steady breathing. The snows glow like a cathedral's glass. Back in the barracks, men scoff at your tales. Sleeping in snow sounds like lunacy, but your calm demeanor sparks curiosity. Perhaps tomorrow, more will try it. As you settle onto your pallet, you realize snow taught you a truth. Survival isn't always fighting the cold, but bending to it. Letting its own nature shield you. The barracks are cramped tonight, thick with coughs and restless bodies. A soldier stumbles in, boots crusted with snow, cloak stiff, leading a horse by its bridle. The men groan and chuckle, but no one protests. Horses in winter were more than mounts, they were living hearths. Their massive bodies radiated heat, their breath steaming like a brazier's glow. Chronicles from medieval campaigns describe soldiers bedding beside horses in open fields or in desperate castles, bringing them into chambers, messy and undignified. But freezing was worse. You edge closer, the horse's hooves clattering on stone, its nervous snorts softening as it settles. The soldier kneels, stroking its neck, then lies against its flank, cloak pulled tight like a blanket. The sight is absurd, yet poignant. A man curled against a beast for warmth. Curious tales abound. In mountain passes, soldiers huddled beneath horses' bellies, snow piling around them. The animals heat a lifeline. In castles, such practices were rarer but not unknown, especially when fuel dwindled. Historians note that horses were sometimes stabled near barracks for this reason. Their warmth, a shared resource. You reach out, touching the horse's hide, its heat seeping into your palm, a stark contrast to the icy stone. The sensory world shifts, the musky scent of horse sweat, the soft creak of leather tack, the rhythmic huff of its breath. A comrade mutters, "Better than a feather bed," and you nod, feeling the truth. The horse's warmth is raw, alive, a gift no straw pallet can match. As you lie nearby, the animal's heat dulls the cold's edge, and you drift toward sleep, grateful for this strange, hoofed ally in winter's war. A soldier speaks of knights resting against their horses' necks, murmuring prayers to Saint Eligius, patron of horses, as if seeking not just warmth, but resilience from the beasts. The tales may seem embellished, but the logic holds. Nothing radiates life like a living creature in winter's grip. Historians debate how common this was standard for cavalry, who saw horses as comrades, or a desperate act tolerated only in crisis. The scent of dung and hay in the barracks tonight answers clearly. When frost threatened limbs, pride dissolved. You press your hand to the horse's flank, its heat a steady pulse under coarse hair, warming your palm like no cloak could. The sensory flood envelops you, the musky temps of horse sweat mingling with brazier smoke. The steady huff of breath, the clatter of hooves on stone. You settle beside the soldier, hesitant at first, but the warmth seeps into you, spreading from chest to fingertips. The horse twitches an ear, indifferent, then calms. You rest your cheek against its side, the scratch of hair a small price for the living heat. A comrade jests. Don't start snoring to its rhythm, sparking thin laughter that softens the room's tension. You imagine barracks filled with men curled against beasts, a strange fellowship of survival. Castles built to defy nature, bow to it in winter. Men huddling with animals like kin. The horse cares nothing for rank or war, its steady heartbeat a drum under your ear, grounding you. Outside, snow lashes the walls, wind keening through arrow slits. But here, pressed against this living furnace, you feel shielded. Tomorrow, the horse may return to the stables. The soldier scolded, but tonight, its warmth promises you'll wake with fingers and toes intact. As sleep pulls you under, the rhythm of its breathing lulls you, a reminder that survival sometimes lies in the simplest alliances. Morning brings the horse's fading warmth, replaced by the stench of manure and the ache of sleeping against its flank. Your fingers and toes wiggle, a small victory, but a new challenge looms. Nature's call, the thought of braving the icy corridors to the guarderoba stone chamber jutting over a moat or cesspit feels like a punishment. In summer, garderobes were bearable. In winter, they were torture. Castle records and archaeological finds describe their stark reality. Waste dropped into pits or waterways, stink rising even in frost. Frozen excrement could form jagged spikes below, making the task grimly hazardous. Soldiers joked of sticking to the icy seat, needing to be pried free. You shudder, reluctant to expose skin to that frozen slab. A comrade shares a trick. Warm a stone by the fire and rest it on the seat briefly to dull the cold. Risky if the stone cracks or scorches the wood, but clever. Another swears by squatting in the stables, where the smell blends with hay and horses don't judge. You laugh, tempted. Chronicles mention soldiers using chamber pots in barracks corners on bitter nights, or hastily relieving themselves into snowdrifts over walls. One record tells of a commander catching men fouling the courtyard, though punishment was often waived when frostbite loomed larger. Historians debate whether soldiers stoically endured garderobes or improvised to avoid them, with illness like dysentery spiking when men shunned the cold for indoor solutions. The sensory ordeal is vivid. You trudge to the garderobe, torch in hand, the air biting your lungs. The rancid stench hits first, sharp despite the frost, followed by the seat's icy grip, shocking your skin into numbness. You finish quickly, gasping, and leap up, the stone's bite lingering. Back in the barracks, comrades laugh. Lose anything? And you roll your eyes. Humor a shield against indignity. Superstitions crept here too. Some faced east to ward off sickness. Others spat into the pit to appease spirits. Rituals, however small, offered control. You vow to try the stables tomorrow? Anything to avoid that frozen seat? The days blur, and while your limbs endure, illness stalks the barracks. Coughs, once a background hum, grow relentless. A grim chorus of hacks and wheezes echoing through the chamber. Medieval chronicles note that winter garrisons often lost more men to sickness than swords, cold weakening malnourished bodies, making them prey to fevers, chest infections, or the vague ague, likely pneumonia or influenza. Cramped, damp barracks, thick with brazier smoke, bred illness as men huddled for warmth. You pull your cloak tighter, the air heavy with the sour stench of sickness, smoke, and damp straw. A soldier spits into the straw, cursing, while another shivers under blankets, sweat beading on his pale brow. Remedies were as desperate as they were strange. Garlic rubbed on chests to expel sickness, mustard seeds chewed for warmth, or onions tucked into boots to draw out fever. One tale speaks of soldiers drinking ale laced with honey and vinegar, a sharp brew believed to banish chills. Historians debate their efficacy. Garlic and honey had antiseptic qualities, but most remedies offered hope over healing. The sensory weight is crushing, the acrid temps of garlic, the rasp of coughs, the clammy feel of wool against fevered skin. You press your cloak to your nose, but the stench clings. A comrade mutters a charm, rubbing mustard seeds between his fingers, and you wonder if hope alone keeps him upright. In this castle, illness is as relentless as frost, and survival demands clinging to any spark, be it herb, prayer, or stubborn will. The barracks choke with illness, coughs, weaving a relentless tapestry of sound, rattling, endless. Some argue honeyed ales soothe throats and hydrated fevered bodies, but others dismiss most remedies as rituals, comforting at best, harmful at worst. In winter's cramped confines, sickness spread like sparks on dry, straw-shared bedding, bowls and breath-carrying contagion. The physician shuffles in, his satchel clinking with herb vials, his cloak reeking of vinegar. Feared more than respected, he examines a soldier's tongue, muttering about humors, and draws a blade to bleed him. The patient groans, blood dripping into a bowl, and you wince, wondering if the cure kills faster than the disease. The night hums with misery, hacking coughs, wheezing breaths, cloaks pulled over heads to muffle the din. Every throat tickle sparks panic. Is it dryness or the ague's first claw? Sickness rivals frost as a thief of life. Superstitions flare in response. A soldier burns juniper sprigs, the acrid smoke stinging your eyes, claiming it banishes plague. Another ties a red thread around his wrist, swearing it tricks death into passing by. You roll your eyes but envy their conviction, clutching your own sun-etched token tighter. The sensory weight is heavy, brazier heat warring with drafts, sour stink of sweat and herbs, the labored breathing filling every silence. By dawn a pallet lies empty, its occupant carried to the chapel, wrapped in cloth, another lost to winter's hidden siege. Silence falls briefly, then boots stamp, cloaks tighten, and life grinds on. You whisper, "Don't take me," fear of illness sharper than cold or hunger. In this fortress, the true enemy creeps within, from pallet to pallet, invisible and merciless. You stumble into the courtyard, craving air despite its knife-like bite. The castle groans under winter's weight, frost-rhyming stones, icicles draping towers, drafts slithering through every crack. Castles were built for defense, not comfort, as architectural records confirm. Thick walls repelled invaders but trapped dampness. Arrow slits allowed archers to aim but funneled icy winds. Vaulted ceilings, grand and imposing, bled heat skyward, leaving soldiers shivering below. In summer, these features served. In winter, they turned fortresses into iceboxes. You pause beneath an arrow slit, snowflakes stinging your cheek as wind whistles through, framing a stark view of white fields. Whoever designed this, you mutter, wasn't guarding in January. Chronicles note attempts to soften these flaws, wooden shutters or leather flaps over slits. Tapestries hung to block drafts, or wood paneling in wealthier chambers to dull stone's chill. Soldiers lacking such luxuries, stuffed rags or animal hides into cracks. Even propped shields against walls as makeshift barriers. Absurd, perhaps, but Frost cared little for pride. Historians debate whether castles were truly unlivable or merely harsh fireplaces and hangings could warm smaller rooms. But vast halls and barracks remained frigid. The sensory reality is undeniable. Your breath fogs in the great hall. The hearths roar distant as stone leaches warmth from your boots. Each step echoes like a tomb, drafts coiling around your legs. A comrade gestures at the soaring ceiling, grumbling. Heat rises, we freeze. You nod, feeling the warmth lift out of reach, leaving you in the cold shadow. The castle's paradox stings. Built to survive sieges, it falters against seasons. You think of peasant huts, low and smoky, warmed by a single fire. They face hunger and disease, but perhaps not the bone-deep chill of stone. You chuckle at the irony, a grand fortress outdone by a thatched roof. As dusk falls, the castle grows colder, stones hoarding frost. Wind keens through slits like a ghostly lament, and you mutter, half-jesting, that the castle fights enemies without but torments those within. Survival lies not in its design, but in the stubbornness of its men, enduring where stone fails. As night deepens, soldiers move with purpose, dragging coarse cloths from storage and shaking dust from woven hangings. You join them, pinning a heavy blanket to the barrack wall, hammering pegs into stone. Tapestries, as the state records note, were more than decor, they were insulation, trapping warmth and dulling drafts. Lords draped halls with embroidered scenes, but soldiers used rough wool or spare cloaks, anything to shield against stone's chill. The fabric billows briefly, then settles, the draft weakening. The room feels less like a crypt, warmth lingering a moment longer, curious detail from records. Some hangings had herbs like lavender or wormwood sewn into seams, scenting the air and repelling pests. You imagine noble chambers fragrant and cozy, while soldiers make do with tattered cloth. Historians debate tapestry's impact. Did they truly warm rooms, or merely trick men into feeling less exposed? Smaller chambers with braziers benefited most, but in vast halls, their effect was modest. You feel it now, though. The air softer, the stone's bite dulled, the sensory shift is vivid. The faint must of old wool, the creak of pegs in stone, the braziers glow, casting shadows on the fabric. A comrade jests, better than a knight's armor, and you smile, knowing each pinned cloth is a small victory. As you settle onto your pallet, the room feels less hostile. The hangings a quiet defiance against winter's siege. Proof that even in a fortress built for war, men find ways to carve out warmth. You press your hand to the hanging cloth, feeling the draft weaken the air stiller. Whether it's real warmth or a trick of the mind, the comfort is undeniable. The barracks transform as the tapestries rise. Wind's shriek dulls to a faint hum. The musky scent of old wool blends with brazier smoke, and the stone's harshness softens under fabric's touch. Voices lose their hollow echo, bouncing warmly off the weave, making the chamber feel less like a crypt and more like a refuge. A soldier grins, stroking the rough cloth. Like a lord's hall, he jests, sparking chuckles, despite the cloth's plainness. The act of hanging it feels like defiance, a refusal to let winter rule unchallenged. In grand halls, tapestries flaunted power-vivid hunts, or saints' tales woven in costly dyes, but here, Blankets proclaim the same stubborn will to endure. Superstitions weave into the moment. One man claims the hangings trap spirits that ghosts shy from cloth barriers. Another scoffs, but admits he sleeps easier with something between him and the stone. Frost or phantoms, the fabric holds its ground. You lie on your pallet, the draft no longer clawing at your face, and the relief is palpable. The sensory shift is subtle but profound. The braziers crackle, the muted murmurs of comrades, the rough weave brushing your fingers. As sleep nears, you smile. Plain cloth feels like armor tonight. In a fortress built to defy armies, survival hinges on humble defenses. Blankets pinned to stone, men refusing to yield to the cold. The tapestries mute the wind, but the stone floor remains a thief, stealing warmth with every step. Tonight the men fight back, spreading rushes across the barracks. Castle records note that straw, reeds, or rush mats covered floors, not just for cleanliness, but for insulation. In noble halls, herbs like lavender sweetened the air. But in barracks, soldiers used whatever they could gather: straw from stables, reeds from rivers. You join the effort, scattering armfuls of straw, boots crunching as the gray stone vanishes under a golden layer. The rustle fills the room, a whispering chorus that drowns the floor's chill. Each handful feels like a small triumph, a barrier against the stone's bite. Curious details emerge. Some soldiers competed to pile the thickest straw beds, believing deeper layers kept lice at bay, though others joked the pests simply smelled better. One French chronicle mentions men sprinkling wine on rushes to mask odors, a wasteful but desperate act. Historians debate the rush's effectiveness. Thick layers could insulate like a rustic carpet, but thin scatterings offered little against stone's cold. Archaeological finds of compacted rush layers suggest well-supplied castles made a difference. The sensory shift is immediate. The earthy scent of straw evokes summer fields. Its prickly texture scratches but shields. You sink onto your pallet, the floor softer, warmer. A comrade groans contentedly like a meadow. Another smirks, scratching his ankle. A meadow with fleas, laughter ripples, easing the cold's grip. Superstitions cling to the rushes. One man claims rosemary in the straw strengthens lungs, another that it traps nightmares, keeping them from sleepers' minds. You smile, choosing to believe for tonight. The rushes muffle steps, soften echoes, and make the barracks less hostile. As the brazier dims, you curl into your cloak, straw rustling beneath, and drift asleep, grateful for grass underfoot, a humble defiance against the stone's unyielding cold. The rushes and tapestries dull winter's edge, but another foe looms: boredom. In a castle locked in frost, days drag under the weight of routine: watch, drill, sleep, repeat. Boredom gnaws as fiercely as cold, sapping as much as warmth. Medieval chronicles note that idleness bred unrest in garrisons, with commanders organizing games, storytelling, or extra drills to keep spirits sharp. You notice men gathering in the barracks' dim glow, their voices rising with a new energy. Some carve wooden dice, others whittle sticks into crude figures, crafting distractions from scraps. A soldier produces a set of knucklebone dice, tossing them onto a cloak with a grin. Takes double watch, he challenges, sparking laughter and bets. A curious practice emerges. Soldiers played games like tables, an early backgammon, or nine menace Morris scratched into tabletops or stone floors. Chronicles mention men singing ballads or trading riddles, their voices filling the long nights. In northern garrisons, some wrestled or held mock duels with blunted sticks, turning boredom into exercise. Historians debate whether these activities were widespread or limited to well-supplied castles. Some argue they were vital for morale, others that they risked disorder if unchecked. The sensory shift is vivid. The clatter of dice, the rhythmic scrape of whittling knives, the warm hum of laughter. You join a game, tossing dice, the clink against stone, a small rebellion against monotony. A comrade sings a bawdy tune, voices joining, and for a moment, the cold fades, placed by camaraderie's warmth. Superstitions touch even this. One man claims a winning throw brings luck for the next watch. Another that a carved figure guards against bad dreams. Smile, rolling the dice, feeling the barracks pulse with life. Survival isn't just about warmth or food, it's about filling the empty hours. keeping the mind from cracking under winter's weight. As the game ends, you lean back, the straw rustling, and realize that laughter, like rushes or tapestries, is a shield, humble but vital, in the endless siege of a castle winter. Despair seeps faster than frost, but tonight the barracks pulse with defiance. As braziers flicker weakly and hunger gnaws, a soldier plucks a lute, its strings buzzing slightly off-key. Another hums, a third taps a barrel-turned drum, and soon music fills the chamber. Chronicles note that music and storytelling were lifelines in winter garrisons. While lords hired minstrels for grand halls, soldiers crafted their own entertainment body, ballads of tavern romps or chants, begging saints for spring's return. When instruments were scarce, tales of battles, heroes, or village folklore warmed the air, shielding against the stone's silence. You lean back on your pallet, the melody washing over you. Boots stamp straw in rhythm, hands clap, voices join in a rough chorus. Barracks brighten, walls seeming to lean in, listening. Curious custom emerges. Soldiers improvised verses mocking officers or rival garrisons' captains, with frost-red noses or lords snoring like war horns. The sharp humor dissolved rank, uniting men in laughter. Historians debate these pastimes impact frivolous distractions or vital morale boosters. Likely both. A song didn't heal frostbite, but it fueled the will to endure. The sensory shift is vivid. Coughs fade under laughter, torchlight dances on walls. The stench of sweat and smoke softens in the rhythm. You smile, bones lighter. As a comrade spins a tale of a knight battling a frost demon with a kitchen ladle, sparking roars of laughter. Another tells of a woman's ever-full cauldron, warming armies with endless broth. These stories, half true, are miracles of camaraderie. The act of singing warms you physically, lungs expand, blood stirs, hands sting from clapping, calves burn from stomping. Superstitions weave in, some claim songs banish winter spirits, others that tales shield against nightmares. You don't know if it's true, but the barracks feel alive, loneliness held at bay by shared voices. As the music slows, a soft ballad lulls the room, men settling into straw, humming faintly. You close your eyes, the tune lingering like a hearth's glow. Swords guard walls, but songs guard hearts, carrying you toward warmer dreams. Winter would claim more than flesh, it would break the spirit. The morning brings the song's faint echo, clinging like smoke, but a new sound rises. The scratch of quills. Soldiers hunch near the brazier, parchment on knees, tongues tracing cracked lips as they labor over letters. Castle records show letters were vital, bridging garrisons to distant homes. Illiterate soldiers dictated to comrades, sending news of survival or pleas for supplies. Letters from home, simple lines and a familiar hand warmed more than fires. You borrow a quill, hand cramping in the cold, ink sluggish in its pot. You scratch out thoughts, the biting frost, the endless drills, the straws nightly caking. Then softly you write, I miss you, the words a tether to those beyond the walls. Chronicles mention soldiers trading precious rations for parchment or ink, desperate to send word. A curious detail, some tied letters with twine blessed in chapels, believing it ensured delivery. Historians note that such correspondence sustained morale, countering the isolation of winter garrisons. The sensory weight is heavy, the quills scratch, the faint ink scent, the brazier's heat drying the page. Your fingers ache, but each word feels like defiance, a refusal to let distance or cold sever bonds. A comrade seals his letter, muttering a prayer to St. Julian, patron of travelers, for safe passage. You smile, folding your own, imagining it reaching home. The act warms you, not in body, but in soul. A reminder that love endures where stone and frost cannot. Winter's monotony grinds harder than cold, boredom a foe as relentless as frostbite. Chronicles describe commanders combating idleness with games, tales, or extra drills to keep spirits sharp. In the barracks, men carve dice from wood or bone, whittle figures, or scratch game boards into stone. A soldier tosses knucklebones, betting a double watch, sparking laughter and wagers. Games like tables or nine men's Morris-filled long nights, while stories heroic epics or bawdy just swove warmth through shared voices. You join a game, the clatter of dice, a small rebellion against the endless gray. A comrade's tale of a frost demon defeated by a ladle draws roars. Others of a magical cauldron lift spirits higher than any fire. Superstitions linger. A winning roll is said to bring luck on watch, a carved figure to guard dreams. Historians debate whether these pastimes were vital or risky morale boosters or potential sparks for unrest. In the barracks, they're surviving, filling empty hours with purpose. The sensory shift is alive. The dices clink, the scrape of knives shaping wood, the hum of voices weaving tales. You laugh, clap, feel blood stir, the cold retreating under camaraderie's heat. As night deepens, the games slow, stories soften, and you settle into straw, the barracks pulse lingering. Survival is not just rushes or tapestries, it's the laughter and tales that keep despair at bay, fortifying you for another winter night. The letter pressed against your chest blurs as smoke stings your eyes, but you blame the tears on the brazier's haze. Medieval soldiers often tucked tokens into their missives, pressed herbs, cloth scraps, even straw flakes, found by archaeologists in ancient envelopes. These were proof of survival, tangible pieces of a frozen world sent to loved ones. Imagine a wife or child touching that straw, smelling faint smoke, feeling the cold through its brittle strands. The letter was a bridge, carrying more than words across winter's divide. Historians debate how many reached their destinations. Some argue couriers braved snow and siege reliably. Others that letters were often lost to wars, chaos, or abandoned in saddlebags. Yet the act of writing was its own salvation, shaping loneliness into sentences, tethering soldiers to a world beyond stone. The sensory act is vivid. The quills scratch like a small creature on parchment. The metallic tang of ink sharpen your nose. The braziers pop as wood shifts, curling smoke over your page. You blow on the ink, lips cracked, tasting salt. Around you, men mutter or chuckle, one dictating clumsily. "Oh, my wife, I've still got my fingers and teeth." Laughter softens the room. Folded and sealed with wax or twine, the letters become talismans, touched with reverence. You tuck yours beneath your cloak, fragile yet potent, imagining the hands that might hold it. A comrade reads an old letter from home, his voice glowing with faded words, filling the barracks with a presence stronger than frost. As you lie back, straw rustling, you think, winter isolates the body. But words cross any distance, their warmth enough to promise spring. The letter's weight lingers against your chest, a quiet anchor. But tonight a louder comfort fills the barracks. A soldier strums a battered lute, another thumps a barrel drum, and a third juggles pilfered apples, grinning as one tumbles to the straw. Medieval chronicles note that garrisons fought boredom with makeshift amusements, music games, riddles, or crude plays on rush-strewn floors. While lords enjoyed minstrels, soldiers crafted their own joy, a shield against despair's slow siege. The juggler curses his fumble, sparking laughter warmer than any fire. The lute's rough twang carries a bawdy ballad of a tavern girl outwitting a regiment. And soon boots stamp, hands clap, the floor a drum, the walls a chorus. Curious tales abound. Soldiers mimicked noble tournaments with broomstick lances and cloak banners, or staged farces playing lords in exaggerated voices. One account describes turnip puppets enacting tales of demons frozen in hell absurd, but in winter, absurdity was warmth. Historians debate whether commanders encouraged such diversions to boost morale or disapproved, fearing disorder. Tonight, no captain interrupts, and joy reigns. The sensory flood is vivid, the lute's buzz, the drum's thud. The sweet scent of roasted apples tossed back to the juggler, masking sweat and straw. Torchlight dances across grinning faces, stone walls glowing golden. The cold retreats held at bay by laughter's fire. A soldier rises, emboldened, to spin a tale of a night outwitting a frost giant with a stolen kitchen spoon. The room roars, men mimicking spoon-sword duels. Another tells of a witch's cauldron, endlessly feeding a starving garrison. These stories, half-invented, weave a spell, binding men in shared defiance. Superstitions linger. Some claim certain tales ward off night spirits, others that laughter itself is a charm against despair. You join the rhythm, clapping until your palms sting, feeling blood stir, the barracks alive with warmth no brazier could match. As the tales soften and the lute slows, men settle into straw, humming faintly. You close your eyes, the night's joy lingering, a reminder that survival is not just enduring cold, but kindling light in the dark. The barracks hum with the afterglow of last night's songs, but now a new ritual unfolds. A soldier stands, voice steady, weaving a story of a lone archer who felled a winter wolf with a single arrow. Chronicles note storytelling as a garrison staple, filling long nights with tales of valor, folklore, or humor. Soldiers shared village legends or spun exaggerated yarns of their own deeds, each story a thread stitching the group together. You lean forward, straw crackling, as the tale grows. Now the wolf was a spirit, its hide warming a whole village. The room leans in, faces lit by torchlight, the cold forgotten. A curious practice. Some soldiers claimed certain stories carried power, like charms. A tale of St. George slaying a dragon might shield against frost's bite, or a story of spring's return hasten its arrival. Historians argue over their impact, mere distraction, or a bulwark against despair. In the barracks, they're both fueling will as much as fires fuel warmth. The sensory world shifts. The storyteller's voice rises and falls. The brazier's crackle punctuates pauses. The faint scent of roasted apples lingers from the juggler's act. You clap as the tale ends, heart lighter, and another soldier begins a yarn of a maiden who thawed a frozen river with a song. The barracks pulse with life, stories weaving warmth stronger than any cloak, proving that in winter's siege words are as vital as walls. The soldier's voice swells, painting a vivid tale of a knight battling frost giants, his arms flailing as he describes swords splintering into icicles and horses charging across frozen clouds. Cheers and jeers erupt, but the cold fades as the story grips the room. Superstitions lace the entertainment. Some claim laughter itself repels sickness, driving frost demons back, while others believe tales of summer fields or roaring hearths summon their warmth into the barracks. True or not, belief fuels the moment. Your laughter bursts free, belly aching, cheeks flush, to sound alien after weeks of shivering silence. Warmth, you realize, isn't just cloaks or braziers. It's the body remembering life, defying frost with joy. As night deepens, the lute softens to a tender melody, men humming as they sink into straw. The juggler tosses his last apple, biting it with a theatrical flourish, sparking contented sighs. Silence settles, not oppressive but serene, the echoes of song and laughter lingering like embers. You curl into your cloak, the barracks glow fading, yet warmth lingers not in your belly or cloak, but in your heart. Outside, the castle stands frozen, stone unyielding, wind relentless, but tonight, laughter proves stronger than firewood or fur. As sleep nears, you think, straw rots, cloaks, tear, but joy endures, the fiercest fuel in winter's siege. Frost returns by evening, tapestries and rushes no match for the barracks' chill. Men shiver, cloaks pulled tight, until someone suggests the oldest tactic. Huddling together, chronicles confirm communal sleeping was a survival strategy in garrisons, not just for lack of space but for warmth. Bodies press shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, shared heat like animals in a den. You shift on your pallet as two comrades slide closer, a third joining wordlessly. Limbs tangle, cloaks overlap, and soon warmth pools between you, a slow tide against the cold. It's not noble comfort sweat stinks, straw pricks, snores, rasp-butt. It's life. Records note soldiers rotating sleeping positions to spare the outermost man the draft's bite, or joking they were wed to bunkmates until spring. Humor masked desperation, but knit bonds tighter than discipline. Historians debate its impact. Some see it as forging trust beyond rank, others as mere pragmatism. You feel both less alone, surrounded by strangers' warmth. The sensory world is vivid. Damp wool's musk, the rhythm of shared breaths, elbows jabbing ribs. Superstitions weave in. One man claims huddling confuses frost spirits, another that dreams pass between sleepers, carrying protection. The murmurs ease fear. Outside, wind howls, snow batters, stone, but within this knot of flesh and cloth, warmth holds. You drift to sleep, lulled by the steady pulse of companionship. The night blurs, memories of winter weaving together, the hearth's fleeting glow, candles sputtering, drills sparking sweat. prayers whispered to saints. You recall snow hollows carved with helmets, horses lending heat, rushes softening stone, and letters pressed like embers against your chest. Each act tapestries pinned, songs sung, bodies huddled was a thread in survival's tapestry. Medieval soldiers didn't endure because castles were warm, but because they refused to yield. Every brazier lit, every tale told, every charm clutched was defiance against winter's cruelty. You lie still, comrades' warmth enveloping you, and feel the weight of their persistence. The brazier fades to embers, straw whispers faintly, and sleep beckons. Imagine the castle dissolving into silence, the drills, coughs, and laughter fading. Only the fire's soft crackle remains, its glow a gentle whisper on your cheek. Picture yourself not on straw, not in a drafty hall, but somewhere safe. Stone walls melt into mist, icy drafts vanish, and the weight of wool and fur cradles you. Breaths around you are calm, no longer desperate, as comrades drift in shared peace. Your body softens, fingers uncurl, bones release their ache. You float between wakefulness and sleep, held in history's hush. Think of those soldiers laughing at frost, huddling under cloaks, whispering to saints, weaving tales of summer. Their endurance echoes in you, their stories a cloak across your shoulders, light yet protective. Inhale deeply, exhale softly. The storm outside quiets, the cold retreats. You are safe, warm, at rest. Close your eyes, let the embers fade and drift into sleep. The castle's trials behind you, spring's promise ahead.